Alright guys, today we're going to learn how to factor trinomials, and it's very important that you understand that you need to check your work afterwards by using the FOIL or the box method, which you learned in the previous unit, and just some of the vocabulary words that are on here. So, a trinomial is a polynomial with 3 terms, and a quadratic trinomial is a polynomial with 3 terms and 1 variable where the highest degree is the second degree. And the standard form of a polynomial is ax squared plus bx plus c, which you see at the bottom here, where a and b and c are real numbers. So all of these coefficients, a and b are the coefficients, but c is the constant number. What we're going to be doing is something that looks to be in this form. Either you'll have a plus sign here, a minus sign, or 2 pluses, or 2 minus signs. You'll see with the problem that we look at. So let's start off with the first example. X squared plus 8x plus 15. What I'm going to do is multiply, well, first off, I always start with my box. So if you look at the bottom here, none of them have, you have to actually do the box yourself. But for the first one, I already set that up for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first term, x squared, and put it in the first box. Then I'm going to take my third and my last term, my constant, I'm going to put this number in this bottom box. So, in front of this x squared, there's a 1 in front of it. We never really write it because it's kind of redundant, but let's just put like that 1 in front. What you're going to do is take the coefficient of this x squared and multiply it by 15. So 1 times 15 gives you 15. So I have to find the factors of 15. The most obvious one is 1 times 15. And then the next one is 3 times 5. So what we need to do is come up with numbers that we can add together that will give us 8x. So if I were, don't write this down on your paper, if I were to do 1x plus 15x and put them in this box, 1 plus 15x gives me 16x, and my goal is to get an 8x, so this combination will not work. So I have to try the next combination of 3x and 5x. You can put any of them in any of the boxes, it doesn't really matter. And then we just to check, 5x plus 3x gives you 8x, which is exactly what we want in order to split up 8x. Also, 3 and 5 are still factors of 15, so we're good to go. Next thing you want to do is we need to fill out these boxes on the side. In order to do that, you're going to see me do some, I'm going to put arrows on here to show you the direction that you want to look at, so I'm going to use a different color. If I look horizontally, if I look at these boxes horizontally, I need to figure out what is the greatest common factor between x squared and 3x. So basically, what do they both have in common? They have an x in common. So I will put that factor in that box. Then I want to look at my next row. So I'm going to look at 5x and 15. So I need to ask myself, all right, what are the factors of 5x and 15? What do they have in common? They both have 5, and they both have a factor 5 in common. So I'm going to put that number in there. If you need to review how to do this, remember in class I told you to list out the, for example, we did we did this in class the first day of this unit. We separated the term into only multiples of prime numbers. So 3 times 5 gives you 15. Oh, oops. So it's just 3 and 5. And then you figure out what do they have in common. Well, they both have this 5 in common. That's where I'm getting that number. If you need a refresher on that, I will make another separate video on that for you. But then I'm going to look at this direction. So I want to get this box, so that means I got to look at both these boxes. So 5x and x squared, they both have x in common. Okay. Another color. Let's do a purple. I'm going to look at finally 15 and 3x. So they have, you gotta ask yourself, what do they both have in common? Well, they both have a factor of 3 in common. So they have, these boxes are actually going to be the numbers that you put on the insides of these parentheses. So your final answer should look something like, if I'm going to look at x and 5, that's actually a positive 5, so it'd be x plus 5, parentheses, the factor up here, which is x and 3, but it's positive 3, so it'll be x plus 3. And that is your final answer. Okay, so just to check, we can do FOIL or the box method to see if it actually is this expression at the top. So I'll do that on the side. So x times x is x squared, x times 3 is positive 3x, 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 3 is 15. I combine like terms, so I get x squared plus 8x plus 15 as my final check, my answer, and it actually matches the original problem. So this answer is good to go. Okay, so that is basically what we're going to be doing with FOIL. You need to be careful with certain problems, but if you pause this video, you can do number 1 and then check to see what your answer is, and I will be showing you guys in a second. So why don't you pause this video and I will show you how to do the rest. Okay, so for x squared plus 5x plus 6, I'm going to draw my box. And I'll make sure to write x squared on this top left box and 6 on the bottom left. Oh, sorry, the bottom right. And then I need to multiply 1 times 6, which gives me 6. So I need to find factors of 6, all the factors of 6. So I have 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and that's it. So then I have to pick out of these two what will give me, if I add them together, what will give me 5x? Well, 1 plus 6 gives me 7. That doesn't work. So then I look at 2 and 3, and that actually does. So I'm going to put those in the boxes, but with an x, because we're looking at trying to get 5x. So 2x and 3x. That is the first. That's how I'm going to split it up. I'm going to look at horizontally between these two. What is the common factor of these two terms? X squared and 2x both share an x. So I'm going to put that x on the right, on the left-hand side. Then I'm going to look at 3x and 6, and they both share a factor of 3. So I have my first term there. And I'm going to look at 6 and 2x. They both share a factor of 2. Put that on the top. And then finally, I have x squared and 3x. And they both share at least an x. So I have my factors on the outside, and all I got to do is write it in this format. So x plus 3 is my first factor. And then I have x plus 2. This is your final answer. If I were to check it in FOIL, you should get this answer on, so That was a pretty simple problem, but then number 2, it's a little bit harder because now we're looking at negatives, and you'll see what happens when you have negative numbers. So we're going to draw our box first. I'm going to put my 2 numbers I already know, so x squared goes on the top left box, and then I have negative 20. It's very important that you don't just put 20, you have to put negative 20 because that number value is negative. So then we need to multiply 1 times negative 20, which gives you negative 20. But I'm actually going to worry about the negative until after, so don't worry about the negative right now. We just want to find factors of 20. So 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. That's it. So I need to figure out what numbers add to positive 1. So this is where we need to figure out one of these numbers is going to be positive and one of them is going to be negative, because to get negative 20, you need to multiply a positive and a negative. So we are going to need a positive and a negative number out of this list. So if I have 1 and 20, there's no way, no combination that I can get 1. So like, for example, if I did positive 1 and negative 20, I would get 1 plus negative 20, that gives me negative 19. If I do positive 20 and negative 1, that gives me 19. So none of those work, so I can't do anything with this one. If I look at the next one, if I have positive 2 and negative 10, I get negative 8. My goal is 1x, so that's not going to work. If I do negative 10 and positive 2, positive 10 and negative 2, I get 8x. Either way, this combination won't work. For the next example, 4 and 5, if I make 4 positive and 5 negative, I will get an answer of negative 1. And I don't want a negative 1, I want a positive 1. But if I make this positive and the 4 negative, I will be able to have a combination of a positive 1x. So it'll be 5x and negative 4x. Just to make sure, we can do 5x minus 4x or 5x plus negative 4x. That gives me 1, so I'm good to go. Then I can do what I do normally with my arrows. So I'm going to figure out the factors of x squared and 5x. So the greatest common factor is x. And I'm going to look at my next row. The common factor of negative 4x and negative 20 is not just 4, but a negative 4. They both share that negative sign, so that's when we're going to be pulling out the negatives. Then I will look at my next column, 5x and negative 20. They both share a 5, not a negative 5, because only one of them is negative. If both of them are negative, then we can pull out the negative. But if only one of them is, don't worry about that. And then we have the last one, x squared and negative 4x. So they both have an x in common. So then I just look at my factors and I write them out. So I have x minus 4 is my first one, and x plus 5. And that is how you factor trinomials. You can do the rest of the problems, but hopefully this gives you a brief explanation on how to factor using the box method.